This is an NJN News special report. Governor Corzine's economic stimulus speech to the state legislature.
Hello, I'm Kent Manahan. Welcome to NJN's live coverage of Governor Corzine's economic stimulus speech to a joint session of the state legislature. The governor will lay out his plans for dealing with the current economic crisis on the state level. Both houses of the legislature are gathering in the assembly chambers to hear the governor's address. NJN News senior political correspondent Michael Aron is standing by in the assembly gallery. Michael, what can we expect today?
We can expect an unusual occurrence. So the governor does not generally call the legislature in for a special session for a speech. He's done it once before on the issue of property taxes. Actually, he also did it when the state shut down state government 2 years ago. We haven't read his speech yet. It's embargoed until he delivers it. We know from advance word that it's going to call for significant investment in the state economy, probably some infrastructure investment that would create jobs, probably some green-collar job creation in the field of alternative energy. Press reports also suggest that it's going to address the home foreclosure issue. The state Republican Party, in advance of this speech, has advanced a few ideas of its own, among them a sales tax holiday, cutting the state sales tax in half for 5 weeks from Thanksgiving to January 4th. We have no idea whether the governor will allude to that, ignore it, embrace it. We'll just have to wait and see. They say that when Wall Street catches cold, New Jersey sneezes. The crisis on Wall Street has severe impacts on this state where so many people work in the financial industry, both here and in New York City. I'm joined now by Phil Kirschner, president of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Phil, were you briefed yesterday on what's in this speech?
We were in a general way.
What's your sense, first of all, of the fact that the governor has called this special session?
I think it's very important. It sends a positive message that New Jersey is just not going to wait around to see what the federal government actions impact New Jersey, that we're going to act ourselves in the areas where we can make a difference.
Do you think that there's going to be some infrastructure investment in this speech today?
I do. I think in terms of schools and roads and bridges and highways and the like, that there will be dollars devoted to that.
Are there some of the things that you've been calling for a couple of years to improve the business climate in the state?
There are. I think you will see investment tax credits for jobs that are created, new jobs that are created, rewarding companies who create jobs here and invest, whether it's in equipment here or building facilities here, that the program will encourage companies to do that sooner rather than later.
I heard Barack Obama last night promising a tax credit for a job created. Does that mean that a New Jersey company that created a new job might get both a federal and a state tax credit for that?
Yeah, we have to see the details, but it may very well mean that, and that would be meaningful. When we look at incentives, we look to see whether it really will accomplish what it hopes to. And if both the federal and state government give similar incentives, I think it will push people to create jobs that they might not otherwise have created.
As I said, the state Republican legislative leaders the other day called for cutting the sales tax in half for a 5-week period. A rather unprecedented move. There have been sales tax holidays in other states for limited purposes, like back-to-school supplies for 2 weeks or so, something like that. But this seems more ambitious. What's BIA's feeling about that?
Well, that's something that we're studying ourselves. It is unprecedented. We want to see what it will cost. We want to see what the impact will be on shoppers and on retailers to see how much of a difference it'll make and where it fits in with the rest of the governor's package. So I think we have to see what comes out today, how much that'll cost, and where this can fit in.
It's interesting that a couple of other business groups embraced that right away. The New Jersey Retail Merchants Association, the Commerce and Industry Association up in Bergen County. You're holding back on that.
Well, it really, first we had heard of it was Monday, so that did not give a lot of time to look at the impact of it. Certainly an interesting idea, and we, I think, along with a lot of other people, want to learn more about it, want to learn about the experiences in other states, whether this is worthwhile doing during our Christmas shopping period.
All right, well, I'm sure that we and the rest of the press corps will be interested in hearing your reaction after the speech. I'm looking down at the hall now, and it's starting to fill up. I think I'm going to go back to our studio and Kent Manahan and Patrick Murray for a little more commentary and analysis, and we'll come back here when the speech is about to begin. Kent?
Thanks so much, Michael. And of course, we'll get back to you shortly when the governor approaches the podium. And I'm joined now by Monmouth University, Gannett, New Jersey poll director Patrick Murray. Patrick, thanks for being with us. You're usually here to give us your thoughts and insights on a day like today. An interesting day. The governor delivers this speech against the backdrop of people's confidence in state and national government plunging. Yesterday here in New Jersey, the state labor department put out figures showing that New Jersey has lost 4,000 jobs in the month of September. Your own poll out yesterday, Monmouth University's poll, showing that 1 in 10 New Jerseyans feel that the structure of state government is working.
Right.
What was the most interesting part of your finding in the poll?
Well, I think particularly as we sit here today waiting for the governor to address a special session of the legislature, let's think back to the last special session, which was about property taxes. And our poll indicates that of a whole host of issues that the public thinks that New Jersey needs to address, the number one issue by far is still property taxes. So in that context, we're looking at a public that has lost faith and confidence in their government to do anything. This is not about Democrats and Republicans now. This is about a sense that the way our system is set up is not working. We have 64% who said that New Jersey state government structure needs a major overhaul, I mean, if you look at this in terms of a bond rating, and if you give a bond rating to confidence, the public confidence in state government, New Jersey wouldn't even be an investment grade.
What kind of an overhaul would that involve? Do you get into that in your poll and glean from the public what?
I was looking back at our polling history here ever since property taxes continues to be number one, and going back to when that property tax session ended, which was in February of 2007, and came up with the plan that we have right now. I found that 1 in 10 New Jersey residents said that this was not only 1 in 10 said that this was a long-term plan with real reform to it that's going to have significant savings. Most were unsatisfied with it. Most felt that the governor did not show enough leadership on it. Most felt that the state legislature caved into special interest in dealing with this issue. And we found in that context that 62%, very similar to the number that we're seeing today about a major overhaul, 62% then said we need a constitutional convention. Because the idea behind a constitutional convention is if it's broke, come up with some ideas to fix it and put those ideas in front of the voters.
So that's what you're seeing. This speech is very important for the governor today. What does he have to do, and what will you be looking for as someone who's in touch with the people of New Jersey?
Well, this is the idea that New Jersey has lost confidence in their leaders, and we're at a time when we need confidence. I mean, go back to Franklin Roosevelt's inauguration speech. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. This is the time that we're in right now. And our state government, and particularly our governor, is not starting off with a lot of credit and faith on the part of the public in that area. He has to build it very quickly if the public is going to buy this plan.
How can he do that? He's got to go out and sell it, obviously, afterwards. But it's a tough road ahead if your poll is accurate.
It's a tough road ahead, because let's look back over the past year. When he proposed the original the original toll hikes back in January to pay down our state debt, his approval rating started to drop. But it really dropped when he went on the road and did his town hall meetings and started to talk to people. I think one of the key things, and we're seeing this in the presidential election right now, is John McCain is getting hammered because he doesn't use the phrase middle class. And one of Jon Corzine's issues from the public is that he never seems to connect his policies with how they will help the typical New Jersey family. So that's what I'm going to be listening for in today's speech, if he makes that connection.
So then you're saying there is a suspect here that the public will not view this plan that he puts forth today as realistic because of what's carried forward to now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the public has not seen a government has come through on their top issues. I mean, if anything, he's going to talk, we assume he's going to be talking about investing in community banks and in helping out people who are going through foreclosures. But the question is, why isn't he helping, why hasn't in the past 3 years of his administration he been helping out people with their number one issue, which is property taxes, which is something that the state can do something about. This is a national issue, this financial crisis. There are things that the state can do and should have been doing all along to help reduce that fiscal burden. So there's going to be a lot of cynicism and skepticism on the part of the public when this is unveiled.
Can something really be accomplished? Can a governor really accomplish real reform in terms of the economy with this speech today and with any actions to follow?
Yeah, there are really two questions here, which is one, what can a state government do, any of the 50 states, in this particular situation? The governor seems to have felt that he's identified a few areas where he can do that. The Republicans seem to have identified some proposals where they feel that they can do that. But then the second question is, what can New Jersey's state government? And New Jersey's state government seems to be in a worse situation than in other states in terms of the believability of their ability to, and competency to address some of these issues.
What about those Republican proposals that we've heard about this week? 2 days, the day before yesterday and yesterday, the Republicans put forth their plan. Among their suggestions to roll back the sales tax by 50% for that period of time we heard Michael Aron refer to. How will that go down with the people? Well,
I'm not sure exactly how that will go down because it's a very populist approach. I mean, who doesn't want their taxes cut in any way, shape, or form? I don't know whether the public will see that as anything more than a quick fix, because that's what they're tuned into thinking about most of these things right now. And if you think about it, if a typical family in good times would spend $1,500 on Christmas gifts, and this year they've decided to cut their budget to $1,000 because things are tight, saving, say, $35 in sales tax, is that going to make them spend that $500 more that they usually would? I'm not sure that would, and I'm interested to see if the public actually believes that as well.
We've heard, and you and I were together when Brendan Burns said recently, that former governor of New Jersey, that people today want everything for free. How realistic is that statement? Is it true? Yeah. Does your polling test that and find that?
Well, yes, we've had opportunities in the past where people were willing to put things on the table, and when the governor called the property tax convention and started to show some leadership, and people felt that, my polling was showing that the public was willing to start discussing things that they were never willing to discuss before, such as giving up some home rule in order to get relief on property taxes. The public were willing to buy into some of it was going to still be a fight to do these things, but the public were willing to do that. What's happened is that the public has said, our leaders are asking for everything and for nothing. Why shouldn't we do the same? So, you know, there's a void of leadership there. Of course, the public is just following along with what they perceive to be happening among their elected leaders.
This speech today that the governor is about to deliver, is it designed for New Jerseyans and beyond to the Obama possible administration if he were to be elected president next month?
That's the big question, because he's giving this speech today, but on Sunday, this past Sunday, he was on Meet the Press as a national spokesperson for Obama's economic policy. And, you know, if you want to be a little cynical about this, you may say this is not simply a package for New Jersey, but perhaps this may be an audition for something larger beyond the state of New Jersey. Certainly I take a lot of calls from the national press asking about Corzine's economic bona fides because they want to know. Their impression was that he's this fiscal guru coming off of Wall Street, and how's he doing in the state of New Jersey? And I said, well, the state doesn't necessarily perceive it the same way as you're seeing it outside. And so this may be a way to show that, you know, here's somebody who can take control, do what he can within the constraints of a state government, and make some changes.
All right, Patrick, we'll be back here shortly, but right now we're going to go to Michael Aron, who is standing by at the State House. We understand the governor about to enter the Assembly chambers to deliver. I think he's arrived. Michael?
We think so, Kent. The Assembly Speaker has just turned the podium over to the Senate President Codey. Let's go to the podium.
My colleagues, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed my pleasure and honor to present the Governor of the State of New Jersey, the Honorable Jon S. Corzine.
folks. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Please. As you know, I'm not used to applause in this chamber. Please. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great that you're joining us all in this convening at an important time. Governor Byrne, Governor Florio, Senate President Codey, Speaker Roberts, Majority Sweeney, Watson Coleman, Minority Leaders Kean and DeCroce. I think former Chief Justice Ports is here. I was told she would be. Rabbi Small and Reverend Schaer, for everyone here, I appreciate you joining us. We meet today, face squarely one of the greatest economic emergencies that we'll ever confront in our public lives. Our state and nation is in the grips of an economic crisis, probably the greatest that's gripped the country since the Great Depression. The public is shaken by chaos and uncertainty, and in many ways they've lost confidence. People are looking for guidance, they need meaningful assistance, and they want leadership. They want leadership now from all of us. And while some may say our challenge is a problem greater than New Jersey, I say we can't stand idly by. I know New Jerseyans are worried. I know many are hurting. Jobs have been lost, home foreclosures are rising, while values have fallen. College and retirement savings have been diminished. Too many of our neighbors and friends are living with a layoff, lost health care, a mortgage larger than the value of their home, or a delinquency notice on a credit card bill. I say we can't stand idly by. Crisis today is the result of a devastating collapse of an inflated housing market that was fostered and financed through excessive borrowing at every level of our economic system. The collapse precipitated a freeze of credit markets across the globe, leading to the failure of several of our nation's largest financial institutions. You know what happened. The stock market panic on Wall Street followed. People may not understand credit default swaps or the risk of leverage 35 times capital, but they know clearly that things are out of control. In Washington, trillions of dollars will be borrowed, spent to steady our financial condition so that the economy does not go even deeper into recession. Unfortunately, history is clear. Financial panics and the accompanying loss of wealth and confidence are often followed by months, if not years, of tough economic times. Economists predict New Jersey could lose tens of thousands of Wall Street jobs. Our casino revenues are in decline. Thousands of construction and manufacturing jobs have already been lost. And retail sales are down while inventories climb. Spending during the holiday season is predicted to be weak. I repeat, we cannot stand idly by. There will be endless debates and opinions about books written about how we got here. The blame game will fill the final days of the presidential campaign. Partisan arguments are inevitable. The important question for us here today is not who set the house on fire, but how do we extinguish the flames and get on with the task of rebuilding. The challenge of the next few weeks for all of us is how will we responsibly ease the burden on our taxpayers and citizens? And how do we advance New Jersey's recovery quickly and decisively? Yes, times are tough, but I have no doubt we will get through them, that we will restore prosperity as a state and as a nation. We've seen other generations survive and then thrive after similar panics. History is on our side. We know our capacity is substantial and our will steely. New Jersey has the best educated, most innovative, hardest driving people anywhere. New Jerseyans like to work hard, and we aim to win. If recovery is certain, the question becomes how and when. To get there as quickly as possible, I'm asking you today to move as soon as practical on legislation that will attack the immediate recession and then lay a foundation for our state's long-term economic recovery. Some parts of the package can be implemented at my discretion. Others depend on you. In both regards, I know we can work together. If there ever was a time for bipartisan cooperation, now is that time. What I'm proposing represents the thinking of many people, some of the most talented, thoughtful in New Jersey. I appreciate that the legislature has held hearings. As you know, I've held economic roundtables and town hall meetings. Like you, I've been listening. I've heard the counsel of business and community leaders, benefited from the insight of a Princeton economist who earlier this week won the Nobel Prize in economics, Paul Krugman. Especially valuable for me, though, and I'm sure it has been for each of you, as I've listened to New Jerseyans at ribbon cuttings, meetings, weekend festivals, even at the governor's fishing tournament in Island Beach State Park. The outcome of all of this is the comprehensive proposal I'll present today. While our response cannot insulate us from the interconnected world in which we live, it can cushion the recession and it can position New Jersey for a strong recovery. Together, I have confidence we will make good choices and take strong actions for the people of New Jersey. To that purpose, the proposed plan addresses 4 broad areas. First, provides immediate assistance to those in greatest need. Second, it directly supports short-term employment and economic activity. Third, it works to enhance business climate on a long-term basis and enhance our economic prospects. And fourth, it addresses our obligation to remain fiscally responsible even during a time of declining revenues and rising demands. A full presentation of the plan is available on the state website, and I'm not going to go through all of the details here. But let me begin where the urgency is greatest and where immediate action is required. First critical challenge is housing, the issue at the root of the global crisis. In New Jersey, homes are being lost to foreclosure at a rate of 50,000 a year. Pretty shocking number. To address this challenge, we'll marshal all the newly available federal dollars and authorities, and they are substantial. We'll pair those funds with redirected HMFA resources to push down foreclosure rates. Using both, we believe we can direct at a minimum $150 million to foreclosure prevention and neighborhood protection. Our efforts will include broadened financial counseling, mortgage restructuring, house and mortgage acquisition. HMFA already administers mortgage assistance and restructuring programs, but they've had little access to limited resources. Their efforts can now be expanded, including real support for community development corporations and community-based housing groups. Aside from added funding, I've worked with the administrator of the Office of the Courts to require mandatory mediation in contested foreclosures, an initiative unique among the states. Mediation can literally stop unnecessary foreclosure actions and allow for informed workouts. In uncontested cases, mediation will be voluntary, but the incentive to work out foreclosures remains. This program will be fully implemented in the next 30 days in the 7 highest foreclosure counties and in 60 days for the remainder. The goal of this initiative is truly to help homeowners stay in their homes. Supporting this mediation effort, I'm also asking for a supplemental appropriation of $9 million for legal services in New Jersey, a group besieged by demands in the current environment. Poor and economically distressed rely on this organization for counsel, their only legal counsel, on bankruptcy, repossession, and foreclosure issues. They need our help. One of New Jersey's other immediate and growing challenges is emergency assistance at our food banks. About 2 weeks ago, I went to Patterson, had to close their doors on a Friday 3 weeks ago because their shelves were empty. Pantries are bare across New Jersey. Food prices are up, donations are down, and the number of clients is growing. To meet this need, I'll ask for a supplemental appropriation of $3 million in state funds. In supporting this effort, the Healthcare Institute of New Jersey has launched an initiative to raise money for emergency food assistance. Such support from business is not only deeply appreciated, but it provides a real lifeline for many New Jerseyans. I encourage other businesses to step up and participate. We must also encourage individual giving. As we fight hunger, I would ask all New Jerseyans to consider donations for the Checkout Hunger at the counter at their local supermarket, or support and give to the local food drives in their communities. Further, in terms of immediate assistance, many of our seniors, the unemployed, and low-income families, will struggle with high energy costs this winter. With new federal dollars supplemented by a $10 million appropriation, we can expand New Jersey's eligibility for energy grants for families up to 200% of the federal poverty level, and we can serve nearly 200,000 households. With both federal and state dollars, many recipients will receive as much as $1,000 to help heat their homes this winter. Finally, to eliminate growing pressure on many of our seniors, I'm proposing and asking you to implement an expansion of the senior property tax freeze. I ask that you increase the cap over 3 years to $80,000 from its current ceiling of approximately $53,000. We expect this to help nearly 70,000 seniors save over $1,000 a year when fully implemented. The cost of the state will be $5 million in the first year, growing to an annual total of $30 million in the third. Not only will this program help our seniors financially, it will keep people in their homes, ease selling pressures in many of our markets, and improve the stability of our neighborhoods. The second major thrust of my proposal seeks to strengthen current economic activity and grow employment right away. First and most practically, I've instructed all commissioners, most particularly the commissioners and the directors of the Department of Transportation, New Jersey Transit and Toll Authorities, the School Development Authority, and the Board of Public Utilities and the Department of Environmental Protection to accelerate, where feasible, all currently funded capital spending projects. Additionally, I've spoken with Governor Patterson of New York and the chairman of the Port Authority, requesting the port take similar actions. It's my expectation, without compromising appropriate controls or competitive requirements, we can move forward through these agencies in the next 6 months, to put $4 to $5 billion of projects in the ground, otherwise left on the drawing board. The American Society of Engineers suggests each $1 billion of infrastructure spending creates something like 30,000 jobs. Rutgers Heldrich Center uses a smaller metric, between 10 and 15,000 jobs per billion. I don't know what the right number is. In either case, we will lean firmly against the trend of rising unemployment, estimated by many experts on the economy to hit 8.5% to 9% nationally by the middle of next year. This infrastructure initiative is straightforward. The projects are advancing capital plans already authorized, already drawn up and funded. We're only moving them forward by expediting the shovels in the ground and boots on the pavement because we need to provide employment now. These efforts will simply help bridge the recession while providing their intended long-term benefits. On another front, BPU and DEP have been working diligently on the state's Energy Master Plan, the first since 1994. In that plan, which we will make public next week, are policy actions that will literally create tens of thousands of jobs over the next 10 years. Particularly important for near-term job growth, we will implement in the next few weeks, several weeks, policy actions promoting residential energy-efficient and carbon abatement investments. Actions that produce hundreds, if not thousands, of green-collar jobs, private sector jobs. PSE&G, New Jersey Natural Gas, Atlantic City Electric, and many small business subcontractors are ready to begin work when authorized by BPU. This is a win-win initiative that can happen immediately. Jobs will be created with no state dollars involved, and over time, the state lowers its carbon footprint and consumer energy bills go down. Similarly, we're working with several of you in the legislature on a package to promote energy efficiency in our schools and public buildings through conservation equipment, weatherization, and other steps to protect against excessive fuel use. Again, in this legislation, private contractors provide the capital, grow their workforce, and are repaid through recaptured energy savings. This legislative initiative has my full support. Let's get it done. Hundreds of jobs are at stake. Acting quickly on both of these conservation initiatives will create those jobs today and provide sustainable energy savings for our public over time. Additionally, we'll attempt to spur small business lending through New Jersey's community banks by depositing at competitive rates a portion of the state's cash management funds. With the new FDIC backing and prospective federal capital infusions, we see an opportunity to spur community lenders to provide more credit locally. We'll further encourage growth in this market by having EDA provide guarantees and other incentives to jumpstart small business lending. The Main Street Assistance Program goes to the very heart of this underserved small business banking market, and they too need our help. Final measure relating to near-term growth is one that potentially carries the most power. Historically, the state's economic development programs tried to entice business to come to New Jersey, or alternatively sought to keep those threatening to move here. In today's plan, I'm proposing we reward those who want to be here, those who have made New Jersey their home. More than ever, we should be encouraging existing businesses to hire and invest, particularly businesses with employees of 500 or less, or small and mid-sized businesses. To that purpose, I propose we immediately create a 2-year program to grow jobs and encourage capital investment in New Jersey. With this initiative, we'll provide $3,000 a person for each incremental full-time hire that's retained 1 year. Let me repeat, if a small business creates a job, we'll send that business a $3,000 check. This job stimulus program should be complemented by offering to the same businesses a sales tax credit for qualifying capital investments. These two pro-growth initiatives offer substantial incentives for business to expand. Adding people and capital means a stronger New Jersey today and tomorrow. Now let me turn to the third piece of my proposal, which centers on improving the long-term foundation of New Jersey's economic engine by enhancing our business climate. Part of my reasoning for recommending the jobs and capital credits was to lay a foundation for this activity. Also, why last spring we joined together to avoid an automatic employer tax hike for unemployment insurance benefits caused by previous raids on the Unemployment Trust Fund. Regrettably, we will be revisiting this issue again this year, and again, I hope to avoid that tax hike. I am also recommending we enhance several of the tax reforms discussed at the recent legislative hearings. Near term, I will support businesses' ability to carry forward tax loss benefits for up to 20 years. And after an appropriate adjustment period, we should eliminate tax rules that appear to be hurting New Jersey's headquartered companies, like the so-called throw-out rule and the regular pace of business regulation or designation. I'm also directing Treasury to work with businesses and all of you to move towards a single sales factor tax computation. Besides tax policy changes, I'm also committed to improving the regulatory climate for businesses while not turning our back on protecting the environment. The vast majority of New Jersey businesses accept the fact that New Jerseyans hold the environment in high regard. Clean air, clean water, open space are ours to safeguard. On the other hand, businesses deserve a regulatory system built for the 21st century, one that is predictable, transparent, and timely. I'm committed to modernizing our permitting process. To that end, DEP will implement the unanimous recommendations of the public, private, and nonprofit representatives who made up the Permit Efficiency Review Task Force led by former DEP Commissioner Chris Daggett. There are a total of 54 recommendations dealing with issues such as technology applications, the reduction of duplication of permitting, and the provision for early DEP reviews. I support all of those. We should move forward. In addition, I will join with the legislature in a bipartisan effort to adopt legislation talked about now, modeled on successful programs in Massachusetts and other states that will license and certify consultants to spur a new wave of cleanup and investment in New Jersey's brownfields. Finally, I want to say I'm just as committed today as I have been from day one, when I first was sworn in as your governor, to promoting New Jersey to the business world outside our borders. Our image internationally is strong. I've been there, I've heard it, I know it. Because we have a diverse community here in New Jersey, we have quality schools, we have an extraordinary workforce, we're located well, and we have high incomes. What we need to work together on is promoting these strengths here at home and across the nation. Jerry Zero, the newly selected Director of Office of Economic Growth, is charged with promoting New Jersey's as a business destination. Jerry has already been at work on this assignment, pro bono, as he's worked with our senior real estate executives to establish a New Jersey Real Estate Board, a private group partnering with state offices in the fight for relocating companies to New Jersey. We're going after it. All of us know New Jersey has much to offer. Let's get out and work to promote it. Now for the hard part. How do we pay for these proposals in the context of declining recessionary revenues? Let's be clear, it'll be tough. Just as being the only state in the nation to deliver absolute budget cuts was last June. Tough? Sure. Doable? Yes. Given the great uncertainties of current circumstances, Treasury's best guess of our revenue shortfall in the year is $400 million, give or take. Our cost estimate, state expenditures for this stimulus package, is roughly $150 million. That, by the way, is before new federal funding that we are using as a part of the program. It is that arithmetic that's led me to ask my cabinet to begin cutting back planned equipment purchases, consultant contracts, and lower priority programs. That's tough. We'll undoubtedly need more cuts. We may have to take more drastic steps in the months ahead. The one certain principle the public can count on from this administration is that spending will match our revenues. No tricks, no hidden ways of moving things forward. And at the end of this fiscal year, spending will be less than the $32.9 billion approved in June. On a more positive note, it appears probable that a second economic package will move through Congress shortly after the November elections. As chair of the National, I like it too, Ray. Send in the dough. As chair of the National Governor's Economic Development Committee, I'm hearing positive feedback on the request by states for Medicaid support, children's health care, unemployment, and infrastructure aid in a new package anticipated, as I said, just after the election. Prospective federal stimulus plan, as I have been able to analyze it, it's being considered, could provide literally hundreds of millions of dollars to New Jersey and help moderate budget cuts. It's also possible that we may see additional housing and energy funding from the rollout of the $700 billion bailout in the weeks ahead. So that's the basic plan. There's much to do. Some other things that I left off, again, I refer you to the website. Let's step up and meet the emergency needs of our citizens. Let's create jobs now. Let's set up a strong recovery once the economy begins to lift. And let's keep our finances under control. Some may ask what is in this for me. Some of our citizens may do that. I say that we all benefit when New Jerseys are working, when people can stay in their homes and businesses have the opportunity to grow and thrive. I buy the statement that rising tides do lift all boats. I believe in New Jersey. I know you do as well. I believe there's much we can do. And I do welcome other responsible and financeable ideas. Obviously, we have to stay flexible in the context of this remarkable economic circumstance and the financial volatility of the day. But make no mistake, as these ideas and this proposal demonstrate, we do have a say about our economic destiny. Being a bystander, standing idly by, is not an option. We may not change all aspects of the economic world. Standing by, idly by, is not an option. Initiative and hard work is the only way. New Jersey's own Thomas Edison said at another time of recession like today, be courageous. I've seen many business depressions, and always America has emerged from those stronger and more prosperous. End of quote. It's time for us to be courageous. It's time for us to lead. Let's do what is right for the people and the prosperity of New Jersey. If we lead, if we act, we will emerge from these challenging times stronger and more prosperous. I thank you very much for your attention.
Governor Corzine wrapping up a 25-minute address to a joint session of the legislature on stimulating the economy. I would say that the address was a combination of pep talk and plan. The governor said he has faith that this economic crisis the nation finds itself in will turn around, and that New Jersey will again be a garden state, a place of prosperity. And he proposed a bunch of steps to try to help ameliorate the pain of the current recession. On an emergency basis, he wants to send money to food banks, more money, $3 million. He has a roughly $45 million plan to help stem the tide of home foreclosures, which he said are at a rate of $50,000 home foreclosures per year in the state, a number he called shocking. He proposed a number of changes in state tax policy and state regulatory policy in order to try to make it more attractive to business. He proposed a tax credit of $3,000 for every job created. We're having a closing prayer here. Let's go back to Kent Manahan. We'll be back here with the legislative response shortly. Kent?
Thank you so much, Michael, and we will rejoin Michael shortly for the legislative response to the governor's speech. In the meantime, turning now back to Patrick Murray from Monmouth University and director of the Monmouth University Gannett, New Jersey poll. Patrick, how did the governor do? Was he successful, in your opinion, in identifying with the problems that New Jersey families are in this crisis situation?
First of all, I think this is one of the best speeches that the governor has ever given. For some of those reasons that you just asked about, which was it does address some of these issues, not all of them, and of course it goes off into some things where she starts talking about the throw-out rule and those things which are way over the head of most New Jerseyans. They don't know what these things mean, but the sense of calm, the sense of we have identified areas where the state can have an impact, and those areas can be done in a fiscally responsible way. He has to sell that to the public, but he really laid that out, I think, very clear, rhetorically very clearly in his speech. And I think there was a sense of, we have doable things that we can do to help people. I think one of the things that we're going to hook on to here is, for example, the senior property tax freeze. I think that's something that's going to resonate with a lot of people because, again, we were talking about property taxes being the #1 issue. Seniors leaving the state because they can't afford to be here. That's an area where people are going to really feel that there's going to be an impact. The other opposite side of this, however, is they're going to start asking these questions, and I was looking at some of these ideas that they came up with, such as the $3,000 tax, $3,000 rebate or check that he's sending to businesses that hire people.
For each
employee that lasts a year, you get $3,000, that got some applause from the audience there. These are issues that you say to yourself, well, these are things that we've been talking about doing for years. Why did it take this financial crisis to bring those about? So, again, there's still some skepticism that has to be overcome here as well.
Skepticism from the Republicans and from some dissident, perhaps Democrats in the party.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see the kind of bipartisanship in the New Jersey legislature that we saw in Congress in passing that fiscal bailout.
The governor called for that today.
Yeah.
This is the time to put partisanship aside, he said, and to act on this as soon as possible. How likely is that to happen? Well,
they'll certainly start meeting on it right away. But that's the big question. Again, many of these things, I think, will be popular with Republicans and Democrats alike. Others will not. For example, spending money to help people with foreclosures, which sounds like a good idea. The governor said that using some federal dollars, we'll be able to get $150 million total towards helping those people. But I'm not an economist, but I was looking at some of the numbers that have been put out, and my guess is, well, how many would that help? 5,000, 6,000 people? The governor himself said we're foreclosing 50,000 houses a year. That's a drop in the bucket, and so the question becomes, who gets that? Is there favoritism there involved? And then that becomes a partisan political discussion.
And adding that cost on to what the governor called the estimated from the state treasurer $400 million deficit.
Yeah, there's $150 million total cost to the state, according to his speech, on top of the $400 million deficit that we're facing. Some of the things that I don't think are in that $150 million, for example, he talks about investing in community banks, taking our investment options and putting them into community banks, directing. Well, we invest in things anyway, so this is just a direction of investment, but he doesn't say, in the speech, he didn't say how many dollars that was, how much that was going to be.
Good idea?
Who knows? I mean, it sounds like a good idea. Invest directly in our community banks, which help New Jersey businesses get the money that they need, the credit they need,
get the loan,
so
get
that they
the
can
whole
pay their
apparatus
employees, meet their
started
payroll, and do all the things that they need to keep their business going in hard times. Does make sense. The question is, will there be a return on the dollar? Because that's what the Investment Council is all about, is sparking investments in New Jersey and New Jersey businesses, but also getting a return for the taxpayer, because some of this money goes back to pension funds and so forth, which we know are underfunded right now.
The governor did say very clearly that at the end of this fiscal year, the budget will be less than the $32.9 billion approved in June. Is that likely to happen? The governor himself said that he wouldn't call this reopening the budget to examine it, but what is it, and will it happen? Well, he got a big applause on that line.
I mean, New Jersey, we have a balanced budget requirement, and it doesn't look like our revenues are going to meet what the original outgoes were planned when this budget was put together. So you are supposed to revisit that. But some ways that you could deal with it are by borrowing, which has happened in the past. The governor claims that we're not going to do that, which means you have to go back and retroactively make cuts to the current budget. That seems to be the indication the governor is giving right now, that he's going to do that, which certainly would have gotten applause. We don't know who applauded because we couldn't see the entire chamber there, but I'm sure the Republicans were right on top of that.
How do you think this will be received by the average New Jersey citizen who right now is experiencing, in these tough economic times, real concern about the state of the economy, as the governor said, about their jobs, about caring for their family, educating their children, and just worrying about whether or not they'll be able to stay in their homes? How will they receive this? Yeah,
as we thought, there are certain things that are well beyond the control of the governor, which are, and he mentioned those things, which are, if you have your child's college fund invested in the stock market, you've lost that, and there's nothing the state can do. If you're about to retire, your retirement fund has just diminished. And that's on top of all these other things that you have to do to pay your bills day to day to make ends meet right now. The governor gave a few things: home heating aid, a senior property tax freeze, money for food pantries, and his foreclosure plan to help a few families with the foreclosure. But that doesn't help the vast majority of New Jerseyans who are really feeling the pinch. Again, there's probably not a lot that a state government could do, and the governor has decided to focus on those at the very bottom of the economic scale to make sure that they just don't fall through the cracks entirely.
Overall, how did the governor's Goldman Sachs background play into his speech today, and how effective he was in communicating it?
Well, it's interesting because investment strategy seems to be something that gets the governor's blood really going, and certainly we saw that back in January when he announced the toll hike plan to pay down debt and pay for transportation projects. We didn't see a lot of the bravado, for lack of a better word, that we saw in that January speech about these things. I think he kind of downplayed it, and I think it made a lot of sense to downplay it because we're talking about real people hurting. This is not something that's academic. This is not something ethereal, theoretical, that exists on a balance sheet. This exists on Main Street in the homes of people in New Jersey. And so I think that he just gave, sketched out those plans, but really talked about, we're going to give a business a $3,000 check. It made it very concrete, which is why I think this is one of the best speeches that the governor has ever given. The
governor is, of course, running for re-election. He goes into the right out of the presidential election, and some would say
November 5th. Yeah, November 5th, the gubernatorial race starts. Yes.
So, given that and what he's facing, how would you judge what the governor did today in his performance and the content of the plan that he laid out for New Jersey?
I think it shows a real balance, a balance between concerns on the left and concerns on the right, trying to give a little bit to Democrats and Republicans. I think he learned something from what happened with the original bailout bill when it failed the first time in the House, but then they put a few things here and there into the bill to get that bipartisan vote together and get it passed. So we definitely did see that there. I think the applause lines that we heard, were Republican applause lines that was geared towards them. I think Republicans were happy to see some of these things in the plan that showed that his ears were open and he understood that this does need a bipartisan approach. I'm not sure that's going to happen because our legislature has really gotten to the point where it's not clear that they will come together in the same way that Congress did, but he certainly laid out that groundwork. And that's something that New Jersey is really looking for. New Jersey likes strong leaders. Voters anywhere want strong leadership. When the times when the governor's approval rating has gone up, it's when he showed strong leadership. It went up very briefly when he shut down the state government because of the budget issue. They liked the idea of strong leadership. It went back down again because they didn't like the plan, the budget that was originally proposed in his first year. It also went up again when he announced that he had reached an agreement on the state workers' contracts a couple years ago. That was a surprise to everybody. It was a surprise in many ways that plan was seen, that the contract was seen as fair to both sides. And that took a lot of people by surprise. It showed strong leadership. His approval numbers went up. That's when his approval numbers went into the positive territory for the first time. And so that's the kind of thing that people want to see, but you have to sustain it. Giving a speech today is just a start. You have to go out there and then get the Democrats and Republicans together and get that done.
So given that, what is the next step for the governor and the legislature? They've got to move quickly on this, and certainly we have the model for that in Washington with the bailout package, which moved through in a bipartisan fashion very quickly.
There's a couple of places the governor should learn lessons here. One was in the bailout in Washington. It seemed that Hank Paulson, the Treasury Secretary, was handling it, and the president, George Bush, was holding back, and that doesn't look well for George Bush. And also from governor's own experience, going back to that property tax special session. Here's another special session. In that property tax special session, the governor hung back and said, I'll let the legislature deal with it. That did not go over well with the public. They just felt that if he's the governor, this is an important issue, as it is today. The governor needs to be out in front. He needs to show that he's dealing with legislators. He's meeting with them. He's trying to get them together. He's the point person that's going to bring this together. He needs to show leadership and be active and not just simply say, the legislature will take care of this and I'll come back in at the end to sign it.
So this could be that moment of leadership for Governor Corzine, and in examining, as you've just laid out for us, the past and his leadership, this could be the beginning of a new phase of the governor's leadership, because the situation is so dire right now. We are in a crisis.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the governor has had these opportunities in the past, and he seemed to have dropped the ball. Let's see if he does it this time. The opportunity absolutely is there for him to take charge.
And there's a lot of pressure on the Republican side, too, because of the crisis that we find ourselves in, to come together with the Democrats on this, if the Democrats, in fact, sign on to the governor's plan. Talk about that and what's at stake for the Republicans here, who would like to run a candidate against him, a strong candidate against the governor in next year's gubernatorial election. Yeah,
again, going back to some poll numbers, I mean, the legislature's approval is horrible. It's at 29% right now. But it's not because necessarily that the Democrats control the legislature. If the Republicans in control, it would probably be the same number. So there's a lot of pressure on the Republicans if they want, politically, if they want to move themselves and be seen as a party of change and as a party who is looking out for the best interests of New Jerseyans, they need to sit across the table with the Democrats and get something done.
All right. Well, Patrick, thank you very much. And we're now going to take a short break from our coverage of Governor Corzine's economic stimulus speech. And when we return, we'll have the legislative response to the governor's address. So do stay with us. I'm Kent Manahan, and welcome back to NJN's continuing coverage of Governor Corzine's economic stimulus speech. In an address that ended just a short time ago, the governor laid out his plan for helping people impacted by the current downturn. We're going to go now back to the State House for the legislative response to the governor's speech. NJN News senior political correspondent Michael Aron is standing by there now. Michael?
That's right, Ken. I have four legislative leaders with me. I have two Democrats and two Republicans. The two Democrats are Senate President and former Governor Dick Codey and Gary Schaer of Passaic, who is on the Budget Committee. You have a title on that committee?
Vice Chair of Budget, and also newly appointed to the Financial and Insurance Services Committee.
And on the Republican side, I have Senate Minority Leader Tom Kean and Assembly Minority Leader Alex DeCroce. Let me start in ranking order. Governor Codey, your overall reaction to this speech?
Well, I think it's about trying to help New Jersey's working poor, and it's about people who are losing their jobs, not being able to stay in their homes, not being able to afford to heat their homes this coming winter. That's where I think he's aiming his speech and a stimulus package, clearly, in my opinion.
You think it's a good package?
I think it's as good as you can get. And let's understand one thing. When you're a governor, you don't control the price of oil. You're at the forces of foreign nations. You can't control Wall Street. So there's only so much a governor can do. So he's got to do everything possible within his power, but obviously it's limited. If the stock market does well, we as a state do very well. Prices go down with oil, we do better. Unfortunately, we don't have control over those market forces.
Let me turn to the Senate Republican leader. Senator, does the governor deserve credit for even giving this speech? Or was this a no-brainer?
Well, we need to find solutions, and we need to work on bipartisan basis to find the solutions. Republicans have offered a common sense plan to make New Jersey more affordable and government more accountable and spending more transparent.
Did you hear any of that plan in this speech?
There were parts. Some of the tax cut parts were there. But I think we need immediate stimulus package to make New Jersey more affordable, but also to make sure that the homes are retaining their value. And we need a broader economic approach that's going to focus on everything from the sales tax holiday that Alex and I have talked about and is generating some broad support among retailers. We need to focus on ways to make charitable deductions so that when New Jerseyans are helping out fellow New Jerseyans, they get some tax credit for that. Senator Codey and I have worked on that proposal together, but we need to make sure that efforts like that to make sure that New Jersey is more affordable going forward. But also, we have the governor identified at least $650 million shortfall as he's discussing, with no way to pay for it. And the Republicans have offered a $1.3 billion savings that we need to refocus on ways to cut spending now so we can make sure that New Jersey is more affordable so that when economic variables do occur, we can have the New Jersey solutions to make sure that our shipper state is in much better stead.
Assemblyman DeCroce, does the governor deserve some credit for stepping up to the plate today, or would any governor have done this?
I think any governor would have done what he's done because he had to do it. He had no choice. Fact of the matter is, on a scale from 1 to 10, he probably gets about a 6. The fact of the matter is, this program is good for maybe 40% of the people in New Jersey. I think Governor Codey said it right about the working poor in New Jersey may benefit from this program. That's probably people in the urban and areas that we have problems with all the time, the Essex counties, the Passaic counties, Atlantic, what have you. But fact of the matter is, people in my area, Tom's area, I don't think they're going to get a lot of benefit from this program. And let me say this to you. Let me finish, Governor. Let me say this to you. Some of the programs that they're talking about beginning are going to be a great beginning as far as environmental concerns. However, it's going to take a long time to have those designed and approved by DEP. And in fact, the Brownfields report that we got from one of the assistant commissioners, I already understand, has been held back because they don't want to do the program the way she originally proposed it.
You wanted to respond, and then I'll get Assemblyman Schaer in.
Throughout all of New Jersey.
Again.
Working poor exists throughout all of New Jersey right now. We're all hurting. It's not just in Essex County or Passaic County. That's a lot of, come on. It's all New Jersey, no matter where we live. We're all hurting.
You're saying there are foreclosures in his district as well?
Absolutely. Right. People that are hurting in his district, my district, Gary's district, Tom's district.
All right, we'll get back to that. Assemblyman Schaer, your overall take on the package that was offered and the act of offering it.
Comprehensive package. I think that's something that we are all looking forward to. I think to suggest that this was to be expected is foolish. It's the first state that seems to be taking the kind of considered efforts across the country that are being taken here. It recognizes that we've got to identify any number of levels, from the very poor to the people who are doing quite well for themselves, that this is a problem that cannot be solved on one dimension, but is multidimensional, requires involvement of business, public partnerships, as well as private involvement. This is a crisis that is affecting not only the state, but the whole world. I think we've got to understand that as a state, we're doing about everything that we should be doing. There's certainly going to be modifications on this, but overall, I think the governor's plan doesn't rate a 6. I think it rates about a 9.5.
Assemblyman DeCroce, Senator Codey challenged you and suggested that there are a lot of foreclosures in your districts in the rural parts of the state that could be forestalled by some of the proposals here today. Your response?
I would assume that there probably are some foreclosures in my area. Probably people bid off more than they can chew in many cases, because unfortunately there were predatory loaners out there that are willing to give them any kind of a dollar without any documentation, and that probably happens in my area, but not quite as many as happened in urban New Jersey.
I think what we need to focus on, the governor's plan in a state of 9 million people, focuses on a solution in this mortgage area for about 1,000 people. And I think what we need to focus on ways to build...
I'm sorry, in a state of 9 million people, he's only helping 1,000 people?
No, that's what the mortgage issue is focused on, about 1,000 homeowners.
Okay.
I think what we need to focus on is broad strategies to make sure that the value is restored and reclaimed throughout the course of New Jersey. And that's why things like realty transfer taxes should be reduced. We should focus on the sales tax holiday. We need to focus on efforts to focus on the COA regulations. We need to focus on broad strategies to make New Jersey more affordable. Certainly we need to help people in these times of economic distress, and it's important that we do so on a bipartisan basis. I believe that we need to focus on broader strategies, efforts to focus, make sure that New Jersey is more affordable and that spending is more transparent at all levels of government. That would help spur economic activity, and I think those are some of the things that the governor should have also focused on.
I was interested in the fact that the governor did not say anything about the sales tax holiday proposal that these two gentlemen and other Republicans made earlier in the week, even though it got a fair degree of positive editorial comment, and even though some people think it's not a bad idea. What do you think of it?
That's the governor's call, obviously. He's the only one who can make that call by executive order. He said he's against it because of the loss of revenues. And one thing I want to get back to, Alex said about 1,000 people. No, we're talking about 1,000 families. And the domino effect of them losing their homes is incredible to the economy of the state of New Jersey and to every one of those families. It's not 1,000.
Kean who said 1,000. It was Senator Kean who said
1,000 families,
what I was
not
saying
1,000
was we
people.
need to focus on proposals that are broad in nature And what I'm saying is we need to focus on the proposals that will make sure that people at all ends of the economic spectrum restore the home value, the value within their homes, and that we can have programs that in both the short term, like the sales tax holiday, but in the longer term, where we revamp economic growth in our state and find the New Jersey solutions that can make New Jersey more affordable, that impact everybody, and working with the governor, working with the majority party on a bipartisan basis to find those solutions. The first times that many of us have heard of these proposals were starting last night. And I think what we need to focus on are ways to focus on finding the solutions. We need to find the affordable solutions, restore confidence in this state, make sure confidence exists in banks. We can free up the credit markets. We can find New Jersey solutions.
There was a proposal in here to take some state money and steer it towards small banks in New Jersey to make it easier for them to lend money to small business. Was that a good thing?
Well, I think we need to focus on that. We need to focus on the funding source of that, and we need to free up liquidity within those banks. So certainly that's one of those areas we should focus on, and we probably would support. But I think what we need to focus on are those broad strategies as well. This is an incomplete speech today, I feel. I think that there are proposals that have been offered by Republicans and Democrats alike that are still in the hopper that we need to have identified, worked on a bipartisan basis to find those solutions that will really engage economic growth in the state, attract more businesses, make sure we've got an entrepreneurial society, and we can focus on those tax reductions, whether it be the sales tax holiday, we form the Council on Affordable Housing mandates that are going to make some communities more unaffordable, the charitable deductions for giving to fellow New Jerseyans.
Are you saying, by the way, are you saying that on your state tax right now you can't deduct a charitable deduction the way you can on your federal tax?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
We have no money to give to charities anymore. I think Tom's wrong. Tom, respectfully, helping small banks, like the governor has said, is vitally important. The last thing you and I both want, the four of us, is to run on our banks. Everything we can do to ensure to the people of the state of New Jersey that they don't have to worry about their money in their banks, we have to do it. All these other things you talked about, right now, they don't care about that. Is my money safe in my bank? It's gotten that bad. So the governor's proposal is right on target.
And that's what in fact, Governor, with all due respect, that's what I said. We need to ensure there's liquidity, we need to ensure there's credit, we need to make sure that people's money is safe. But in addition to that, I mean, that's a very small part in terms of funding of this proposal. What we need to focus on are the broader strategies in the short term, which shows that we have people can pay less taxes, and so we can spur some more economic activity. But we can also ensure there are longer term solutions. And so what I'm saying is we need to ensure that liquidity. That's the first part of the statement. But we need to go further.
There were about 20 proposals in the speech, I would say. Assemblyman Schaer, pick one that particularly resonated with you.
I think the infusion of cash into our state-chartered banks is tremendously important. We're not talking about funds out of our pension accounts, but rather out of our cash management account.
What is the difference? I read in the newspaper this morning that these were going to be pension funds, and then the governor said, no, these are cash management funds. What's the difference?
Cash management account is literally a money market account that the government has in terms of cash flow, where we put that money short-term to gain interest. One of the most important things for the markets right now is liquidity. We need to bring liquidity back. We can do that with our state-chartered banks through putting in this $25 million infusion. Clearly, many of his other proposals were extraordinarily significant. I think another one that needs to be looked at very, very carefully is rewarding businesses for hiring new people, giving businesses a $3,000 incentive for every new hiree they make. This is the way that you jumpstart an economy. In all due respect, lowering the sales tax for 4 months looks good on paper, but that's not going to make the fundamental change that we need to be making here.
What do you think about the $3,000 tax credit? He said we'll write you a check if you create a job that lasts for a year.
Well, that's only a beginning. Again, it's as he criticizes ours, I have to criticize the governor's. First of all, the governor said he wanted to do something in a bipartisan measure. This was a unilateral decision on his part. We weren't brought into this discussion until yesterday, and then he told us exactly what he was going to be coming out with today. That's not bipartisan.
Isn't that the way, unfortunately, it always works?
Yes, it is, but that's not the way it should be. We should be able to talk about these things in the beginning before these things are presented, and then come up with an agreement
not
amongst
always.
all of us.
Not always. It was a different time. But the other thing that the governor can do in the short term is he can repeal or even veto the toll hikes that he's going to approve within the next week, because those toll hikes will ripple through the economy and make food and other goods that transport on our highways more unaffordable. I think we need to focus on ways, and the Republicans have offered the solution. It appears on SenateNJ.com to fund better ways to fund our transportation infrastructure improvements, but not with toll hikes, not with tax increases that are going to ripple through the economy. At the same time, we also need to look at ways to reduce spending at this juncture so we can offset some of the talked about increases, because we already know that the revenues are coming in less for sales tax, less for income tax, less for corporate business tax. We need to identify and address those realities now, and that was not addressed by the governor.
If you love more government and more spending, you're going to like the governor's program. He wants to increase tolls on the Parkway and the Turnpike.
It's done already.
Right, it's already done. And he's going to be spending that money. But it's going to cost our residents more money. Our program puts their money back in their pockets. That's not what he's doing. He's growing government. We want to make it smaller.
Toll hikes, Senator Codey?
Well, first, this governor cut more out of the previous budget than any governor in the history of our state. So let's put out the facts. Second of all, on the toll hike, roughly about 40% or more is paid by out-of-staters. No, and yes, it is. If we don't, look at the Turnpike facts. If we do not have an infusion of cash in a transportation trust fund, okay, our bridges are not going to be fixed. Our roads are not going to be widened like they should, like we want. There hasn't been an increase on the Parkway since '89. Is it needed? Sure it is. Come on, let's talk about reality.
The governor's plan, with all due respect, doesn't put a dime in the Transportation Trust Fund. Not one dime. The Republican alternative...
It widens the Turnpike and the Parkway and goes to some bridges and goes to the Arc Tunnel.
Those first two were never going to be funded by the Transportation Trust Fund. The Arc Tunnel and the Republicans' transportation alternative that we offered back in May identified the Arc Tunnel as one of the priorities that would be funded on our plan in a constitutionally dedicated funding stream. The problem is that now that the governor's increasing tolls, may not be the 800% that he originally wanted, but still 115% in the short term, that we need to focus.
Dedicated source of revenue.
We have identified, as it's laid out on our website, www.senateny.com.
What is the dedicated source, sir?
Motor vehicle fees. We would identify $500 million of motor vehicle
to the state of New Jersey and transfer it over there.
We identified, Governor, what we identified was $1.3 billion in savings. We would reprioritize some of those funds, because as you know, with motor vehicle commission, it's about $1.1 billion of revenue coming in, $400 million to pay for operating expenses. What we would do is have motor vehicle areas start paying for themselves, focus, and then reprioritize funding in other parts of the state.
Cigarettes and soda or something? Come on, let's talk reality.
These are out of current fees, Governor. You know that. These are out of current
Assemblyman Schaer, weigh in on this.
You're talking about thousands of people out of work, more people who are probably going to be out of work. Additionally, 50,000 home foreclosures a year going on in the state of New Jersey, and we're talking about a few cents in terms of a toll hike. We need some fundamental efforts here. We've seen them start with the governor today. Certainly more needs to be done, but to say that a tremendous amount has not been accomplished this morning is not looking at things squarely here.
The governor, at the end of the speech, called for bipartisanship, like we saw in Congress with the bailout bill, I believe he said. It doesn't sound like we're going to get much of that here in Trenton.
We will. Do you? I think we will. I think there's a lot that we need to that we do agree on. We need to make New Jersey more affordable. A lot of these proposals to ensure that there is a strong infrastructure in the state, these are principles that people agree on. The focus is, how are we going to fund?
How about the business climate pieces of this proposal, some of which were pretty technical, extending the loss carry forward provision to 20 years and the single sales tax factor or whatever it's called.
We're going to be voting on that very soon, and I'm sure the Republicans will vote with us.
Well, it's been Republican proposals for the last several years. Joe Carrillo's had many of these bills in. For Steve Oroho, Alex DeCroce has had none of these bills in for years. And in fact, all the way back in May, these were part of our common sense plan, these proposals. And we support these proposals and look forward to working on them. But we need to go further.
How about the calls for regulatory reform? He wants to take a set of recommendations from a permit efficiency task force and just implement all 35 of them. What do you think of that?
It's necessary. It's long overdue, and it's something that probably we will support, depending on the bill. We want to see it, but it's something that I think we could live with.
I think those recommendations, which were achieved on a bipartisan basis by the commission, the commission.
Chris Daggett, a Republican, chaired that commission.
Former DEP Commissioner Chris Daggett, but also using the Massachusetts model for brownfields redevelopment and permitting through is something that the legislature was talking about all the way back in the spring. So the governor now finally putting his support behind it in a public fashion will be helpful. Some of these initiatives have been talked about for months. It's time to get them moving, but I also think that we need to make New Jersey more affordable, make sure that home values for all residents, whatever we can do to restore. We also need to make New Jersey more affordable by, I think, reducing people's tax burden.
How about, sorry to keep going to them, but
you're trying to break his speech, you know?
Well, yeah, I'm breaking it down and trying to get it
into a filibuster here.
Well, I'll go to you.
I'll help him out.
I'll go to you.
Round and round.
I'll go to you guys first.
Filibusters here, Governor.
I'll go to you guys first on this one. The proposal,
though.
the proposal to extend the senior citizen property tax freeze program over 3 years from an income ceiling of $53,000 up to $80,000. If you're a senior and you earn $80,000 or less a year, I think if I understand it correctly, your property taxes are frozen by the state. Assemblyman?
Tremendous initiative. The only thing we need to do is to make sure that it applies to our seniors who rent as well, make sure that it's equal in that sense. But this will be a tremendous asset and help for them to stay in their homes, to secure neighborhoods, to secure areas where everyone is right now.
Senator Codey?
Well, I couldn't agree more with Gary. I mean, not only would it allow them to stay in their homes, purchase their medicine, pay for the heating, so forth and so on. Great idea by the governor.
Senator Kean?
It is a good idea, and the Republicans will support that type of proposal. But what we need to focus on are ways within the budget that we can afford it. And I think we need to say this is a priority, and what are the other priorities within a $33 billion budget that will allow us to afford this going forward?
Well, give us something you would cut in that $33 billion budget.
Well, we identified $1.3 billion in savings.
Give us a big one that you've identified.
Well, we identified many things on efficiencies going forward. We looked at programs, and we identified on a bipartisan basis things that aren't being done as efficiently over a period of time.
Like what?
Everything from transportation to the education sector. I mean, you focus on, for example, in Union City, it's been identified that there is a lot of extra spending going on with not as much efficiency. We need to focus on ways to increase. In
the Union City schools.
Yes, within the Union City school districts. That's one specific example. We can identify in specific examples where we can reduce some spending, and it was identified. It's getting additional.
Let me take that one over to this side. We do keep reading about Union City schools and gold-plated schools and a lot of expenditure in Union City. Is every dollar that's going to Union City schools justified?
Well, if you look at their scores, it certainly is. It's gone way up. But you were talking about pennies in a $33 million billion budget, okay? These vague generalities is all I've heard for the last 20 minutes. You know that, and I know that. Why don't we just work together, cut out all the nonsense, the politic and whatever? We're not up for 4 years.
Would you do that? I want to see it.
I was governor, and you know it.
I want to see it happen. I'll work with you if you work with us.
You did on occasions.
I'll work with you on his programs. You work with us on our programs. Let's see if we can
with him quite a bit.
We have identified, and we have worked, and we'll continue to work on a bipartisan basis. The people want solutions. Right now, we've seen a speech. And there are provisions of the speech that
his and yours.
I get my time when I can, Governor. I get my time when I can. But I think what people are trying to focus on are, can we find the solutions in the short term that will allow them to stay in their homes, will allow that their credit.
Are those solutions in this plan?
I think there are areas where we can work with the governor, yes. And I think there are ways that need to be expanded so we can look at things like the sales tax holiday. We can focus on the tax cuts for the toll hikes. We need to reduce that burden. The governor should veto that. We need to make New Jersey affordable where we can, and initiatives that will spur economic growth in this state. We need New Jersey solutions. Yes, people are hurting, which is why it's more important than ever that we work on a bipartisan basis.
He gets a minute, he gets a minute, I get a minute, he gets a minute.
We're looser than that.
We're out of time right now.
You know, we're going to be at. We're going to be.
Where's the red light, Dick? Where's the red light?
That's what we need.
We're going to be out of time in about a minute. We have about a minute left. Go ahead, quickly, please.
The governor, he's establishing several programs here. I want to know where he's going to get the money to pay for it. He said he's going to have to make cuts. We want to work with him on those cuts. We proposed some. We hope he works with us.
There are about $550 million of shortfall that he talked about, $400 million coming in revenue shortfall, and another $150 million he's proposing to spend to stimulate the economy. You know of any place you can get $550 million?
Let's be honest. The election is going to be very important to New Jersey. It looks like Senator Obama is our next governor.
Next president.
President, I'm sorry. Get
You have governor on the brain.
I know. Watch where you're going, Mike. Okay. But the next president will decide whether or not we get aid. It's a big, big factor, Mike. Would it get increases in Medicare, Medicaid, so forth and so on? I think Obama gets elected president, helps New Jersey tremendously.
All right, last two words.
I think
Kean and Schaer.
I think Senator McCain becoming president will help New Jersey tremendously as well. I think we need to enhance the partnership between New Jersey and Washington going forward.
Someone Schaer, last word.
It's a great speech, a great way to go forward. We need to do it on a bipartisan basis, but truly a bipartisan basis. We need to understand that everyone in the state is being affected. And gentlemen, frankly, it's time to get rid of the rhetoric, to get down to business. People in this state are hurting. The governor recognizes it. We need to recognize it as well.
All right. This has been the legislative response to Governor Corzine's economic stimulus speech. I'm Michael Aron. Let's go back to Kent Manahan. Kent.
Thank you very much, Michael. And back here with Patrick Murray in our NJN studios. That was a spirited discourse there that we heard. Real tones, in your estimation, of bipartisanship, cooperation in the future on this plan? Did you hear, Patrick?
This is exactly what I expected to hear, which was a lack of bipartisanship. Senator Kean called for a bipartisan approach, and we were talking about before the break about the Republicans needing to show that they are willing to sit down and work with this. But part of the problem is that the Democrats own the ball. And the Democrats have to invite them to the table. And this was one of Assemblyman DeCroce's complaints, was that the governor did this unilaterally and just briefed them yesterday about this. But what Assembly DeCroce said first off was something about where this money was going to go in terms of direct aid, implying that it was Democratic pork. So already launching a partisan attack. And this is not what people want to hear.
Well, I was just about to go back to your poll, in which we cited at the beginning of this broadcast that your most recent poll, released yesterday, found that 1 in 10 New Jerseyans think that the structure of government doesn't work. Is this an example of that?
And that debate that we just watched really illustrates that. I think of the 4 that were up there, Assemblyman Schaer probably was talking in the most bipartisan manner, in a way that says, look, we're not talking about who's right, who's wrong. We're talking about the need to help people. And that's what people want to hear. I don't think Assemblyman DeCroce did his party any favors by starting to attack this on a partisan basis. Whether those attacks are right or wrong, that's not the issue. People don't want to hear this. But on the same token, one of the things that came up that I found really interesting was to talk about efficiencies in government. And the Republicans said we've identified about $2 billion in efficiencies that we can attack. Whether that's right or wrong, one of the interesting things was that Dick Codey came back and said, Governor Codey said, you're talking about pennies here. Well, guess what? So is the New Jersey family. They're talking about pinching pennies. They want to see their government pinch pennies. One of the things that came up in our poll about after property taxes was cutting government waste. Even if it's pennies, if you want to rebuild trust in our government, which doesn't exist right now, one of the things you can do is start by pinching those pennies. Might not close the budget gap, might not fill the holes, but it shows that you understand it, you get what the concerns are of the New Jersey public.
So in a sense, then, you're reading from this, which we just heard from both sides of the aisle, that they're not listening to the people of New Jersey. Just briefly.
I think they're tone deaf. Again, the argument whether you can save a lot or not a lot by cutting government waste, if you try to do that and show good faith effort that you're going to do that, you're going to start building confidence, and that's really important.
Patrick Murray, Monmouth University, thank you very much for being with us and
My
sharing
pleasure.
all of your perspective on this important day. And that concludes NJN's coverage of Governor Corzine's economic stimulus speech. We'll have more of the governor's speech on NJN News coming up tonight at 6, 7:30, and 11:30. I'm Kent Manahan, and thanks so much for being with us.